My fiancée begged me not to make the family take sides after I caught her cheating with my cousin. So I made sure everyone saw exactly who really betrayed the family. My aunt was crying at one end of the table, my mom was stone-faced at the other, and my fiancée was squeezing my cousin's hand under the table like she thought no one could see it. That was the moment I realized keeping the peace was just code for protecting them. I stood up, tapped my beer bottle with a fork, and every conversation at the birthday cookout died mid-sentence. My cousin's grin faded when he saw the envelope in my hand. My fiancé mouthed, "Please don't," like we were sharing some private joke instead of a 3-month affair. I cleared my throat and told them I was finally ready to explain why the wedding was off and what the two of them had really been doing while the rest of us were planning it. I'm 29 now, but this started when I was 27 and thought I'd already done the hard work of getting my life together. I'm an electrician, union, decent money, steady work, not glamorous, but reliable. I bought a small townhouse just outside the city, nothing fancy, but it had a garage and a tiny backyard where I could grill, and that felt like winning. My family is big and loud and very into, we don't turn our backs on each other, which is great in theory and a mess in practice. My cousin Mark and I grew up like brothers. He's a year older, charismatic, always the one in the middle of every story. I was the quieter one with better credit. I met Jenna at a friend's trivia night. She was on Mark's team, actually. I didn't realize they already knew each other from the bar until later. She was funny, sharp, competitive in a way I liked. We spent the whole night trading dumb movie quotes and side comments, and she laughed at my jokes like she meant it. We started dating, and for the first year, everything felt easy. She loved that I had my life together, as she put it. She'd brag to her friends that I owned a place, that I could fix things around the house. My mom adored her. My dad said she fit right in at family cookouts. Mark used to ruffle my hair and say, "Damn, you actually outkicked your coverage, man," which was his way of being happy for me. My younger sister, Lily, was the only one who gave me a look the first time she watched Jenna and Mark interact. We were leaving my parents' place after a Sunday lunch, and she nudged me in the driveway. "You notice how handsy your girl is when she laughs at Mark?" she asked. I shrugged it off. "She's just friendly," I said. Lily didn't push, just said, "You're the one dating her, but keep your eyes open, okay?" It was such a throwaway line at the time I almost forgot it. Things escalated fast after I proposed. I did it on the dock at my parents' lake cabin, just us, at sunset. I had saved for the ring a simple but nice solitaire, and she cried and said, "Of course yes, you idiot," then started planning before I even finished the sentence. The engagement high was strong. Everyone was excited. My mom broke out her Pinterest boards from when my older brother got married. My aunt, Mark's mom, offered us their country place as a venue. That's where Mark and his dad run a small landscaping and maintenance business, and the property is gorgeous. Big oak trees, a creek, the whole rustic chic thing. Jenna loved it, almost too much. "I'll just go out there with Mark on some weekends to plan stuff," she said casually one night while we were folding laundry. "He knows the place best, and it'll save us paying a planner." It made sense, and I was working a ton of overtime, so I figured, fine, go pick where you want the fairy lights. At first, it was harmless. She'd go out there on a Saturday, send me photos of flowers and angles of the barn, come back sunburned and tired. Then it became more frequent. Mark and I have to meet the tent guy. Mark and I have to walk the property lines. Mark and I are grabbing a drink with the caterer after. There was always a Mark and I. When I joked that I was going to start charging him a fee for borrowing my fiancée, she laughed, but there was this flicker of something in her eyes I didn't like. Lily noticed too. At my mom's birthday dinner, Jenna and Mark were on one side of the table, practically leaning into each other, sharing inside jokes. When the waitress thought they were the couple and called me Jenna's brother, everyone laughed, but Lily didn't. She texted me from across the table, "This is weird, right?" I texted back, "You're overthinking it," but my stomach was tight. The red flags piled up in little ways. Jenna started guarding her phone like it was top secret. Before, it would just lie face up on the couch. Now it was always in her pocket or flipped over, pin-locked. When I mentioned it once, she snapped, "I'm allowed to have basic privacy," and stormed off, leaving me standing in the kitchen with 2 beers and a dumb look. She was suddenly too tired for sex, but then I'd see her posting boomerangs of drinks with the crew at a bar, Mark's hat just visible in the corner of the frame. She started staying over at her friend Kelsey's place more when we had wedding planning weekends. It's just easier than driving all the way back to your place when we're out near your aunt's house, she said. It didn't add up, but I didn't want to be that jealous guy. I told myself she was stressed. Weddings are stressful. Everyone online says that, right? My ally in all this turned out not just to be Lily, but also Mark's then-girlfriend Kara. She and I weren't super close, but we were friendly. One afternoon, months before everything blew up, she pulled me aside at a barbecue while Jenna was inside helping my mom. "Can I ask you something without you freaking out?" she said quietly. My heart did a weird flip. "Sure," I said. "Does it ever seem like Jenna and Mark are, I don't know, a little too close?" she asked. "He never shuts up about her when we're alone. And every time I try to talk future with him, he says he's not ready for all that, then goes and spends entire Saturdays with your fiancé planning your future." She laughed bitterly after that last part, like she heard how messed up it sounded. I brushed it off again, but less convincingly this time. "They just get along," I said. "Our families are all close. You know how it is." She gave me this look that said she knew I was lying to myself, but didn't want to blow up my life. "Okay," she said slowly. "Just, if you ever get a gut feeling, don't ignore it like I did with my last ex." That conversation burrowed into my brain like a tick. I started noticing more. The way Jenna would light up when Mark texted, then roll her eyes when my mom asked about floral arrangements. The way they'd disappear together to make a quick call to the DJ and come back laughing at some private story. One night, Jenna came over late, supposedly right from a planning meeting. She smelled like Mark's cologne, this specific woodsy scent he's been wearing since college. I know because I gave it to him one Christmas. When I commented that she smelled different, she froze for half a second, then said she'd tried a new perfume sample from Sephora. I'm an idiot sometimes, but I'm not noseblind. The actual breaking point came because of technology, like it always does. Jenna had an old iPad that she kept at my place for Netflix and Pinterest. She almost never used it for anything else. One Saturday morning, she left in a rush for another planning day. I was too tired to go right away, so I stayed home, planning to meet everyone later. I picked up the iPad to put on a game, and a text notification popped up. It was from Mark. It said, "Still thinking about last night in the truck. You and my hoodie all messed up is going to be stuck in my head at Sunday dinner." And there was a devil emoji. My throat went dry. I tapped it, expecting it to be locked, but Jenna had never changed the code on the iPad. It was still the same dumb 4-digit PIN she'd set when she first bought it. Her messages were all there, synced, like some horrible backup of her other life. I scrolled up. It wasn't just one text, it was weeks of them, dirty talk, waiting for chances to sneak away from everyone. Jokes about how, if your mom knew what we did in the hayloft, she'd make me burn this dress. Timelines that overlapped with wedding planning weekends. Screenshots of our registry where they'd joke about what items we'd definitely break the first time we used them together. My stomach turned, reading my own future being used as foreplay for them. There was even a message from Mark warning her, "We have to keep this quiet. If your parents or my mom ever find out, it'll blow up the whole family. We just need to get through the wedding and then figure it out." And she responded, "I know. No one needs to choose sides. What they don't know won't hurt them." I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. For a while, I just sat there in my kitchen, staring at the island and listening to the fridge hum. Then the rage kicked in. I took photos of everything. Screenshots, videos scrolling through the thread so you could see dates, their names at the top of the screen, all of it. I backed it up to my email, then to a USB. When I could finally breathe without wanting to smash something, I called Lily. She came over within 20 minutes. I handed her the iPad with shaking hands and told her to read. She did, and halfway through she put it down and said, "I'm going to kill them." I actually laughed, this ugly half-laugh. "Get in line," I said. We spent the next hour putting a plan together. Step 1 was not blowing up immediately. That part was the hardest. Every petty bone in my body wanted to drive out to my aunt's property and pull them out of the barn by their hair. But my sister is smarter than me, and she said, "You need to protect yourself first. Separate your finances, cancel what you can quietly, make sure you're not the one left holding the bag when this explodes." So that's what I did. Over the next few days, I moved the wedding savings out of our joint account into my personal one and told Jenna I'd gotten spooked about scams. I called the venue to confirm everything was in my name and checked the contract for cancellation clauses. I stopped adding to the honeymoon fund. I paid off my credit cards. When Jenna asked why I was suddenly so interested in the budget, I said, "Inflation, I guess," and she rolled her eyes. Then I called Kara. That was awkward. I basically said, "Hey, this is going to sound insane, but can you come over without telling Mark why?" She showed up, suspicious but curious. When I showed her the messages, she didn't cry right away. She just read and read, then whispered, "Wow, I really know how to pick them." She'd noticed stuff too, it turned out. Half-truths, weird timing, emotional distance. Seeing it in black and white broke something in her, but she thanked me for telling her instead of letting her find out at the family photo shoot or some nonsense. We both agreed on one thing, though. They didn't get to skate by on some "we made a mistake but we don't want to ruin the family" line. I confronted Jenna the next day at my place. I had the iPad on the coffee table, screen dark. I asked her how the planning was going. She went on for 10 minutes about linens and seating charts and how Mark thought we should do a late-night taco bar. When she finally paused, I tapped the iPad awake. The last messages she'd sent to Mark lit up. Her face went white. "What is that?" she asked, already knowing. "The part where you talk about how my family doesn't need to know you're screwing my cousin behind my back," I said. "Or the part where you say you'll figure it out after the wedding. Which part do you want to start with?" She tried every angle in the book in the span of 15 minutes. Denial, then minimizing, then blame. It was just texting, it didn't mean anything, until I pointed at where they described having sex in his truck in my aunt's driveway. Then it was, "We only hooked up a few times, we were drunk, it spiraled. And finally, if you hadn't been working so much, I wouldn't have felt so alone." That last one made me laugh. Not a nice laugh. "You cheated on me with my cousin because I worked overtime so we could afford the wedding you keep adding extras to," I said. "That is some Olympic-level gymnastics." She cried, of course. Big gasping sobs. "Please, can we not tell everyone? Please. It was a mistake. I'll break it off with Mark. We can go to therapy. Our families don't need to pick sides. I don't want to be the reason there's drama at Christmas," she said. That was her biggest concern, I realized. Not me. Not our relationship. The optics. The image of being the good future daughter-in-law everyone loved. I told her the engagement was over, handed her the ring box, and said I'd give her a week to get her stuff out of my place. She clutched the ring to her chest and whispered, "Please don't tell your mom. Or Mark's mom. This will destroy them." "You should have thought about that before you climbed into his truck," I said. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I think that scared her more. I let her leave thinking maybe she'd contained it. That's when my aunt texted the whole family about a big birthday cookout for Mark the following weekend and said they wanted to also raise a glass to the future newlyweds, meaning me and Jenna. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I looked at the folder of screenshots on my laptop and realized I was done protecting their secret. I told Lily I wanted to handle it at the cookout. In one shot, no side rumors, no he said, she said, just the truth in the sun in front of the people who'd be affected. She said, "You sure? It's going to be a bomb." I said, "Yeah." They wanted to keep the family out of it. They should have kept it out of the family bed. So that's how I ended up at my cousin's birthday, holding an envelope full of printed messages, watching him laugh with Jenna on the other side of the picnic table, and wondering when exactly either of them had decided I was stupid enough to never notice. When my aunt asked where the ring was because she noticed Jenna's hand was bare, Jenna said we were taking a breather to work on communication. I stood, feeling my heartbeat in my throat, tapped my bottle, and everything went quiet at once. "First off, happy birthday, Mark," I said at the cookout, my voice sounding weirdly calm in my own ears. "I brought you a present too. It's not as fun as the new drill set, but it's pretty memorable." People chuckled, not knowing what was coming. My mom smiled up at me like I was about to give some cute engaged guy speech. Jenna glared at me, tiny shake of her head. Mark raised his bottle and said, "You better not have gotten me something sappy, man." I took the envelope out of my back pocket and felt the paper flex in my fingers. "So, some of you already know the wedding is off," I began. "What you don't know is why. And since Jenna keeps telling me she doesn't want the family taking sides, I figured the best way to respect that was to let everyone hear the same story at the same time, from me." My dad frowned. "Is this really the time, son?" he asked. My aunt said, "If it's about money, we can talk later." I shook my head. "It's not about money. It's about the fact that the woman I was going to marry has been sleeping with the birthday boy for months. You know that phrase about hearing a pin drop? It's real. Forks clinked against plates and then nothing. You could hear the wind in the trees. My aunt's face did something I have never seen on a human before. My mom said, What are you talking about? Like she'd misheard me. Jenna stood up so fast her chair scraped the patio. Can we not do this? She hissed. Can we please talk about this privately? I ignored her, opened the envelope, and started handing pages out. These are screenshots from Jenna's iPad, I said. I didn't go looking. A notification popped up. It's all backed up if anyone thinks I photoshopped it. I passed one stack to my mom and dad, one to my aunt and uncle, and one to Lily to share with anyone else who wanted proof. People started reading. You could track where they were in the thread by the expressions. Confusion, then dawning horror, then anger. My aunt pressed a hand to her mouth. My uncle went red, like his entire head was about to explode. My mom turned this awful gray color. This isn't fair, Jenna said, voice trembling. You're ambushing us. We were going to tell everyone. Were you? I asked. Because according to your messages, the plan was to keep this quiet until after the wedding and then figure it out, so no one had to take sides. That about right? Mark finally spoke. All right, man, calm down, he said, hands up like he was talking to a drunk stranger at a bar. We didn't mean for this to happen. We were going to end it. Don't blow up the whole family over a mistake. I stared at him and felt this cold clarity. You didn't mean for it to happen, I repeated. You didn't mean to sneak around in your truck or in the hayloft or at the venue walkthrough. You didn't mean to warn her not to sit too close to you at my mom's dinner because you thought you'd have a tell from the night before. My aunt looked at him sharply. She'd clearly reached that part in the printouts. You had sex with your cousin's fiancé in our barn, she said quietly, like she couldn't trust her own voice. On our property, while we were inside making you dinner? Mark opened his mouth, closed it, then tried. It just happened. We were both confused. We still love you guys. It was such a pathetic line it almost made me pity him. My uncle didn't. You selfish little idiot, he snapped. That's your cousin. That's your family. And you sneak around like some teenager in a cheap soap opera? Jenna tried to grab my arm. Can we please stop? She begged. This isn't helping. We can work this out in therapy. Our parents don't need all the details. I shook her off. They need enough details to understand why I'm not going to be standing at the altar in 3 months, I said. And frankly, they deserve to know exactly who they've been trusting around their kids in their homes. One of my other cousins muttered, Jesus, under his breath. Kara, who was there because the breakup hadn't happened yet publicly, was silently crying, mascara streaks down her face. My mom walked over to me slowly, took one of the pages from my hand and read it. Then she slapped it down on the table and said to Jenna, Is this true? Voice shaking. Jenna couldn't even speak for a second. When she did, it was the same script she'd given me. It was a mistake. I was drunk. I was confused. I felt neglected. My mom cut her off. You felt neglected, so you slept with his cousin, she asked. In what universe is that how adults handle their feelings? My aunt had sunk into a chair, staring at Mark like he was a stranger. My uncle said, You're fired, in this flat voice. Mark blinked. What? He asked stupidly. You're done with the business, my uncle repeated. I'm not going to spend the rest of my life working next to someone who can do this to his own family. Get your tools out of the shop on Monday. After that, don't come back. That hit Mark harder than anything else, I think. His entire identity is wrapped up in that business. Jenna looked between us all, realizing for the first time that the no one takes sides fantasy was crumbling. Please, she said to my mom, to my aunt, to anyone who would listen. We can move past this. I love him. I love you guys. I don't want to lose this family. My dad, who'd been quiet up till then, finally spoke. You already did, he said. You just didn't tell yourself the truth yet. I picked the ring box out of my pocket and set it gently on the table in front of her. You can pawn it, or keep it, or throw it in the creek, I said. I don't care. But after today, stop telling people we're working on things. I'm not your fiancé. I'm your ex who trusted you with his heart and his family, and you used both. Then I turned to my aunt and uncle, my voice softer. I'm sorry you're finding out this way, I said. But it's not my job to protect them from what they chose to do. I won't ask you to take my side, but I'm also not going to pretend this is some misunderstanding we can sweep under the rug. My aunt stood, walked around the table, and hugged me. Hard. You don't have to apologize for being honest, she said into my shoulder. You're not the one who broke anything. That was the twist I didn't see coming. I'd been so focused on not losing my family that I forgot maybe they'd be angry for me instead of at me. I left the party after that, my hands shaking only once I got into my truck. Lily rode with me. We didn't say much, just put on music and let the adrenaline ebb. That night, I boxed up what was left of Jenna's stuff at my place. She tried to show up, but I'd already changed the locks and left her boxes with Kelsey. Over the next few days, my phone blew up. Jenna oscillated between tearful apologies and angry accusations. "You humiliated me," she texted. "You turned my family against me. If you'd kept it private, we could have worked it out." I didn't respond. After the third paragraph rant about how I'd weaponized her mistakes, I blocked her. Her mother called me, asking if there was any way we can salvage this without destroying both families. I told her very calmly that her daughter and my cousin had already done the destroying. I'd just turned the lights on. Mark tried once, too. He sent this long message about how he knew he'd messed up, but family is forever, and did I really want to throw away a lifetime of cousin bond over a few bad decisions? I read it, laughed, and deleted it. Meanwhile, the narrative they tried to spin, "We were just emotionally confused, it didn't mean anything, he overreacted," didn't last long. Half the family had printouts. Lily and Kara had screenshots. One of my uncles, not even directly involved, told me at a later BBQ, "They keep saying it was a one-time mistake. Then 3 different people brought different screenshots to your grandma showing messages from weeks apart." Dumbest cover story I've ever heard. People did take sides, but not the way Jenna had hoped. A couple of older relatives made noises about keeping private things private and kids these days airing everything out. But most were firmly in the, "yeah, that's messed up" camp. My grandma, who doesn't raise her voice for anything, told Mark at a family lunch, "You broke something big, and I don't know if it will ever be the same. You need to sit with that instead of asking everyone to pretend it's fine. And if you've never seen a 30-year-old man get verbally spanked by an 80-year-old, it's something." Socially, the fallout for them was rough. Jenna lost a lot of her future in-law shine. My mom, who used to brag about her, now referred to her as "that girl" or "your ex." My aunt stopped inviting her to anything. Mutual friends heard the story, in a way that stuck close to the facts because screenshots travel fast, and a couple of Jenna's bridesmaids quietly dropped out of her life. Kara dumped Mark, obviously, and posted one of those slightly petty but earned captions online about dodging bullets and listening to your gut next time. As for Mark, losing his job with his dad was a big blow. He had to move into a crappy apartment with a Craigslist roommate. Most family gatherings after that were awkward for him. He'd show up late, leave early, circle around me like we were opposite poles of a magnet. We never spoke. He tried once at my grandma's birthday to corner me by the drinks table. "Can we please move past this?" he asked. "It's weird for everyone when you won't even say hi. We're family." I took a sip of my beer and said, "You made your choices. I'm making mine." He opened his mouth to argue, then saw my grandma watching from across the room and thought better of it. The only real revenge I actively took beyond telling the truth was with my aunt and uncle's business, and even that wasn't some master plan. A month or so after the fallout, my uncle called me. "You busy?" he asked. "Got a minute to come by the shop?" I went, expecting some awkward chat about reconciliation or whatever. Instead, he handed me a set of keys and said, "We need another pair of hands, someone I can trust. You're good with tools, you're reliable, and you understand what loyalty actually means. You want in?" That's how I ended up working part-time with him on top of my electrical jobs, learning the landscaping side of things and eventually buying into a small share. He'd always told Mark the business would be his one day. Now, quietly, he started splitting that future between his kids and me. I didn't gloat about it. I didn't have to. The reality of Mark watching me pull into the yard in my work truck while he drove past on his way to some retail job was its own consequence. Months went by. The chaos settled into a new normal. I started therapy because, surprise, having your fiancé sleep with your cousin and then beg you to keep it quiet so the family wouldn't take sides messes with your head. The therapist helped me unpack all the crap I'd been swallowing in the name of keeping the peace my whole life. She said something that stuck. "You didn't break the family by telling the truth. They did by violating the trust it was built on." I got back into lifting, started running in the mornings, took on more side jobs that were actually for me, like rewiring my own place and turning the spare room into a workshop. Lily and I got closer. She'd come over for movie nights, bring takeout, and we'd roast terrible reality TV while occasionally pausing to say, "Wow, at least our lives aren't that messy anymore," and mean it. Occasionally, someone would try to resurrect the old "you two should talk" idea. My mom floated it once before Christmas. Maybe you and Mark could sit down with a mediator, she said, just so things aren't so tense at gatherings. I told her, I'm civil. I say hello. I don't throw plates at him. That's as far as I'm willing to go. Forgiveness doesn't mean access. She didn't love that, but she respected it. The last major contact from Jenna came about 9 months after the cookout. She emailed me from a new address, probably after I blocked her on everything else. It was long, talking about how she'd been in therapy, how she realized she had attachment wounds and a tendency to chase validation, how she missed my family more than she missed her own sometimes. She wrote that she understood if I never wanted to see her again but hoped, someday we can sit down and talk about closure. I read it once, then again. Part of me felt bad for her in this detached way, like you feel bad for a stranger on the news whose car got stolen even though they'd left the keys in it. But the bigger part of me remembered the way she'd looked across the picnic table, more worried about everyone taking sides than about what she'd done. I didn't respond. That was my closure. Block, delete, move on. These days, my life is quieter, in a good way. I go to work, both at the electrical company and sometimes with my uncle's business. I come home to a place that feels like mine. I grill in the backyard. I play soccer in a weekend league with some guys from work. I grab beers with friends who don't secretly want to sleep with the people I bring around. I've been on some dates, nothing serious yet, and I'm more cautious now in a way I wish I hadn't had to learn. But I also know I'd rather be alone than be someone's second option or their dirty little family secret. At family gatherings, there's still a bit of a ghost at the table. An empty seat where Jenna used to sit. A silence where Mark and I used to roast each other. That sucks, I won't lie. Sometimes I miss the version of him I grew up with, before he decided my life and my fiancée were toys he could borrow. But then I remember that version never really existed the way I thought. He just hadn't been tested yet. If there's a silver lining, it's this. The people who mattered most showed me exactly where they stood. My aunt and uncle backed me, not their son's lies. My parents chose honesty over appearances. Lily was in my corner from day one and never said, I told you so, even though she absolutely could have. I lost a fiancé and a cousin, but I kept my self-respect and gained a clearer picture of who's actually in my corner. There's still some sadness when I think about the wedding that never happened, the version of my life I thought I was walking into. But every time I imagine an alternate timeline where I married her and found out about them years later, with kids and a mortgage and entangled finances, I feel nothing but relief. That day at the cookout was ugly and humiliating and raw, but it was also the moment I stopped protecting people who wouldn't even protect me a little. And as much as it hurt, I'd rather live with that scar than go back to being the guy smiling in family photos while everybody whispered behind my back.